You know, they said it couldn't be done, frankly.
They said it.
They said it. They said, Connor, he can never make a video. He can never actually make a YouTube video and post it to YouTube. Joke's on you, motherfucker. I did. We have a video up on the YouTube now. We did our little 2024 Chaos Limited pool with typical Gemini, Wyatt. We did a little round robin game. Actually made it into a video. Actually posted said video. And guess what? I already hate it.
I think it's pretty good.
I like the intro. I like what I did to like introduce the games. And then I finished editing. I basically finished and exported the video and I was watching it like full. And I'm like, why the fuck did I lay out the mats like that? Why did I do that? Why didn't I turn them sideways and then put the stuff in the middle like every other creator does when they're doing like one-on-one Magic games? I don't like our background for it. It's a whole to do, but you can check that out on our YouTube right now, youtube.com/thedungeonbros. But well, actually, you might be watching this on youtube.com/thedungeonbros. But if you're not, you're watching this on podcast services around the world because this is not a YouTube video, though it is a YouTube video. At the same, I'm getting lost in the. I'm getting lost here a
Bring
little
it back
bit.
and reel it in.
This is, of course, the Duels and Mana Dorks podcast, a D&D and Magic the Gathering podcast, and I am Connor.
And I am Sam.
And we are the Dungeon Bros, but we are not brothers.
Nor are we in a dungeon.
And we were both kind of like hoping to get a little bit of a quick one in today. You know, we're recording a little bit. My work schedule has changed, so we've had to record a little bit later in the day, and then I've got other stuff at night. It's kind of compressing things a little bit. It's not fun. So I'm like, okay, we can bust this out in like an hour. And then we had all of the 2025 D&D books, like names revealed except for the last one of the year. And then we have Aetherdrift spoilers and Aetherdrift commander decks. And they dropped a playtest today as of the recording of this video for D&D. So, you know, the best laid plans of mice and men and all that. So, yeah. I shouldn't have said anything, frankly. You know, I should have just said, oh, yeah, let's go for 3 hours. Who cares? Would have had nothing to talk about. But, Jester. So the cat's been clawing a lot at my bed today for attention.
Ooh.
You want attention? Here. Oh, now you want to run.
You ask for attention, cat. You get the camera.
You want attention, yeah? What do you have to say to the audience? Oh, was there a little static on there? It sounded like you got zapped. I'm sorry. All right, get out of here. It has been rather dry with the winter. But anyway, I'm meandering even further than I had originally planned. You can check out the YouTube video. We did our little round robin game. It's a great watch. Only like 25 minutes. Tried to keep it pithy and entertaining. I cut down the games a lot. It's a whole thing. Who won? Who won? You'll never know unless you watch.
Who's next? You decide.
Next? It could be. You decide. This isn't an epic rap battle.
But it could be.
It could be. It could be.
We have to wrap all of our cards in the future.
Like a Pokemon rap style, just like wrapping the names exactly. Of like that's how you have to submit your deck lists to like conventions and tournaments and stuff. Is you have to wrap your entire deck list. And if you have multiple of the same, you just have to say the same thing like over. Like everyone's deck is going to end with like plains, mountain. And it's just like repeating over and over again. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. Anyway, of course, the Duels and Mana Dorks podcast, it posts every other week on Mondays for the free feeds. If you want to get it a week early and ad-free, you can get it on the Wednesday before the posting to the free feeds by joining our Patreon, patreon.com/thedungeonbros. If you join at the $5 tier, you get early ad-free access to all the podcasts. You also are going to get our little bonus game of Commander we did after we recorded our round robin game. We did a little game of Commander. Am I going to be editing this one like I did the video? No, I will not be. So you just get to hang out with us and watch us play a 3-player game of Commander. You check that out on the Patreon. If you join at the $15 tier up, you get your name right at the end of the show. Also, you can join for free if you want to just ask questions for the podcast, all that kind of stuff. which we will get into some of those a little bit later. I think that's all the stuff. That's all the stuff, right? Oh, Apple, Google, or Apple, Spotify, YouTube Music, all that kind of stuff. TikTok's not banned anymore, so you can follow us there, I guess. I don't know. We don't post anymore. Anyway, Sam, what do we have in the upcoming releases for both D&D and Magic the Gathering? Because we got some names for things now.
Yes, so as mentioned earlier, a bunch of things dropped today as of recording. Of course, we're going to start off with in February 18th releasing is the final core rulebook for 1 D&D, and that will be the Monster Manual. We've talked much about it, so moving on. New names of things. Finally. First up, we have Dragon Delves. This will be available on July 8th, and this was the previous, as we previously mentioned in podcast, an unannounced Dragon book. This is it, Dragon Delves. And just as a little side note, there is going to be a new D&D novel released alongside of it. It's called The Fallbacks, dealing with dragons. This is a sequel to the previous Fallbacks novel. Next up is, on August 19th, is Eberron, Forge of the Artificer. Ooh, Artificing.
We did get a little bit of a playtest for the Artificer if you watched the last episode of the podcast. I'm sure they've been taking all of the feedback from that and we'll be implementing it here for Eberron. People have been wanting to go back to Eberron and wanted an Artificer, so I'm not surprised it's one of the first books they're releasing.
Oh, yeah? All right, next up on September 16th of this year, Heroes of the Borderlands starter set. Very interesting that we're getting another starter set after the last one was just released it makes sense. New D&D, who dis, need a starter set. All right, continuing on. Then we have an untitled D&D book on October 25th of this year. Or on this year in October, there will be an untitled D&D book. Great. Moving on. The Forgotten Realms Player's Guide and the Forgotten Realms Adventures Guide will come out on November 11th.
I am personally very excited for D&D Untitled releasing in October. I think I've really enjoyed the world of Untitled, and a lot of Untitled's work in general. The lore is very, very deep.
It's deep, right?
Oh, so deep.
You can't really put a pin in it. You can't really put
the plot. Chef's kiss.
M. Night Shyamalan twists all over the place.
They were aliens the entire time. Anyway, speaking of aliens, we got magic sets as well. That'll tie in for Edge of Eternities, maybe?
All right, moving on to Magic the Gathering. The Innistrad Remastered set, the yearly remaster set, is out now. Go get some and play some draft, why don't ya? All right, coming up in February 14th, with, of course, the pre-release 1 week earlier, we get Aetherdrift. This is the racing set. We're into preview season. We've got some spoilers to talk about. We've got some commander decks to talk about coming up here in just 1 second. Next up, we have Tarkir Dragonstorm. That'll be available April 11th. Final Fantasy Universes Beyond will be available on June 13th. Edge of Eternities, which will be the standard rotation set of the year, will be coming out August 1st. As we wrap up the year, they'll have a Spider-Man Universes Beyond. Still don't know when that will be. That is to be announced. And then finally, we have, just as there was an untitled D&D book, there is an unannounced Universes Beyond. To be determined when that will become.
Yeah, you can't have people knowing what's coming out for the current year that you're in.
It's true.
You got to keep the mystery alive somehow.
3 years ago they told us their 5-year plan, and now they're like, "No, you get nothing."
You get
us in the face.
You get a 6-month plan at best, which
that, yeah.
You take the wins where you can get them. Frankly, whether or not you would consider this a win, to be determined. Aetherdrift, though, plenty to talk about here. I just want to start off with the Aether Spark real quick. I need to pull it up. We know what the Aether Spark is now. Equipment Planeswalker, as long as it is... Okay, so a 4-mana, 4 loyalty, legendary artifact Planeswalker equipment. Just rolls off the tongue. As long as it has a static ability, as long as Ether Spark is attached to a creature, the Ether Spark can't be attacked and has, whenever equipped creature deals combat damage during your turn, put that many loyalty counters on the Ether Spark. Note that it does not say combat damage to a player. It says combat damage, period. It can be dealt to a creature, another planeswalker, battle, player, whatever. As long as it's not prevented, it's still dealing the damage. It has 3 loyalty abilities. +1 is how you attach it to a target creature you control, and it gives a +1/+1 counter. -5, you get to draw 2 cards. -10, you add 10 mana of any one color. So the abilities on it aren't like crazy, but the fact that it's +1 ability, which you are basically going to automatically be activating the moment it hits the battlefield, will attach it to a creature, give it a buff, and then protect itself from being targeted entirely. And instead of just +1ing it to try an ultimate, if you're swinging in for 6 damage right when you equip it, +1 to equip, it gets 5. It's up to 5 loyalty. If it's dealing 5 damage, you have enough to go off and do 10 mana on your next turn. What do you make of the Ether Spark? It is the like card of the set, the figurehead of the set.
Yeah, it's well, it is definitely not, I think, what anybody was expecting, and yet that thing can definitely go bananas.
Oh yeah.
I think that there's some very obvious power that you can do with it, and I'm guessing there's just some ridiculous things that you can find along the way.
I know a lot of people have been looking at it in combination with, I believe it's Stoneforge Mystic in 60-card formats for being able to tutor up a planeswalker and then attaching it to a creature that wants to have equipment on it and just gaining value that way. Because, again, none of the abilities are very splashy. Like, adding 10 mana is cool. Drawing 2 cards, you're always going to want to do that. So it's not like... It's not going to be like this massive ultimate that's going to win you the game on the spot. It's just going to enable or speed up whatever you're trying to do. So it's honestly just like a nice value card to have. It's not like I was kind of expecting a big splashy thing. Like whenever we've been getting the big, the big face card of a set, it's usually like something a little splashier or something a little more build around. Whereas this is just kind of like a toolbox. Mm-hmm. Which I guess if you're working on cars,
that makes sense then. Yeah,
it makes a lot of sense. The toolbox. Before we get into specific cards, I want to pick your brain about the finish line frame. This like all yellow frame for these cards. We do know that one of the box topper cards that you can pull in the box topper, you can get it in bundles. A box topper pack is in a bundle, the finish line bundle, as well as just buying a booster box. You can get some serialized stuff, and you can get things like a finish line frame Chrome Mox, which is one of the most expensive cards that you can get in the entirety of the set. I have my thoughts on the finish line frame, but I want to hear what you have to say first.
So going in, obviously looking at these, I know that these are digital renderings, and they are not what the final product will look like. That being said, they look kind of ridiculous.
They look pretty ugly.
They're not attractive cards. No. It's weird because, like, right now I'm looking at the Regal Impiasaur in both its full art frame and the finish line frame, and man, does it just look like somebody dumped a bunch of mustard on this poor dinosaur. And
they haven't even been like changing the art for some of these, other than just like color shifting like a background. Like we're both looking at MTG Goldfish right now. If you look above that, all of the Radiant Lotuses, which by the way, we have a new Lotus. I think it's a bad Lotus personally, but it's a sacrifice outlet for artifacts. You can produce like a ton of mana if you're sacrificing more than one artifact. But the finish line frame Radiant Lotus versus the regular Radiant Lotus, they literally just like put a very, very yellow filter over the background of the Lotus itself, and then just yellowed up the frame. And it's just, I don't know about you, Sam, but when I think of a race car and I think of a finish line, I don't think of yellow. I think of a black and white checkerboard, right? Am I crazy?
Yeah, the common set symbol here is the black and white checkerboard. Perfect.
Exactly.
Makes sense. But however, yeah, this just makes me want to have a hot dog.
Fair enough, I guess. The thing is, the if you pull a finish line frame card, it's probably going to have a fair bit of value, even if the card itself isn't like super great, just because they're actually like seemingly pretty rare just to even pull at all. At least most of these rares and mythics are. So that's all, you know, of course, opinion. I'm sure someone's like, I love mustard. I want it for my hot dog deck.
Hot dog typal deck.
Exactly. Do you have any cards that really stand out to you that you want to talk about?
Yeah. Well, let's obviously we're not going to go too deep here because this is going to be a quick episode, and also we like to do a full set review when it is fully spoiled with our good friend Typical Gemini.
Yes, of course.
So let me just start by calling out a pretty, I think, iconic one that's going to be a little iconic for the set, and that is going to be the new Loot.
Oh, that was the one I was looking at too.
Let me see if I can find him here.
Loot. While you do, Loot
here we go.
the
Loot
Pathfinder.
Yes, he is 2 green, blue, red for a 2/4 Beast Noble with double strike, vigilance, and haste. Well, if that wasn't good enough, he has 3 abilities. Now, these are all of the new set mechanic Exhaust, which means these abilities can each only be activated once. Not once per turn, just once while in this iteration of the permanent. His first one is green and tap, add 3 mana of any one color. Blue and tap, draw 3 cards. Or red and tap, Loot deals 3 damage to any target. You know, that though the one time use is, you know, really good in like limited. Mm-hmm. Once you throw this into a commander deck,
cracked wide open. You know, nothing like like being able to ancestral recall however many times you want in a game. Yeah. Well, because you have access to blue, you have access to a certain class of card that makes the downside of Exhaust only being able to use once per game moot point, and that's all the flicker effects that you have in blue. Because when you flicker it, it goes into exile, it returns to the battlefield as a new entity, and so all of the Exhaust abilities are reset. I'm very intrigued to see what specific Exhaust abilities are built around. If this wasn't 5 mana, I could totally see this as like a CEDH commander, but now it's just going to be like so hard. Like, it's so much harder to get higher mana value commanders onto the battlefield in CEDH. Because I could totally see them being like, yeah, even though it's one use, like I'm Dark Ritualing basically for green, and I'm Ancestral Recalling, and I'm Lightning Bolting, and if I flicker it, I can do it again, and flicker it and do it again, and
right.
It's all not to downplay any of this either. It's also a 2/4 with double strike and vigilance, so you can attack with it pretty reasonably and activate this ability in the second main as well. So, no, Loot's a very good call out. Another one that people have been discussing in the CEDH realm, though to a lesser extent, there are 3 new gods that we have seen from the Amonkhet plane. I'm looking at the white and black one, which is Ketramos the New Dawn. 1 white black for a 4/4 legendary creature god. Menace, lifelink, indestructible. It can't block or attack unless you have 7 or more cards in exile. So it does not care about devotion like many of the god cards do. It cares about cards in exile. Whenever 1 or more cards are put into exile from graveyards and or the battlefield during your turn, you draw a card, you lose a life. White and black, well, white more so. Known for throwing things into exile. This is also a wonderful little card for flicker effects. Because, much like loot, when you are flickering this, whatever permanent you're targeting, it goes into exile, and then it returns to the battlefield. And it does not care about it staying in exile. Ketramos sees it be put into exile from the battlefield. It triggers, you draw a card, you lose a life. So all of your flicker effects are now also draw a card.
That's true.
It also does care what is it? The Planeswalker that was reprinted in Ravnica Remastered. Kaya? The Kaya Planeswalker,
Kaya?
I think. That one also cares about exiling stuff as well, and people have been talking about it going very well in Ketramos. Yeah. I don't really have much more to call out, per se. We are getting some more Verge lands, it looks like, which is pretty neat. Mm-hmm. More of the Cycle of Verges. We just got those in Duskmourn.
I think we'll have a lot more to say in our set review with Typical Gemini. However, just before we go, I want to talk real quick. I want to get your thoughts, because I've been going back and forth on it, on your initial thoughts on the Start Your Engines mechanic. Start Your Engines is a set mechanic that goes on many cards that says, if you have 0 speed, your speed starts at 1. It goes up once each turn. Sorry, let me get an actual card with it on it, because I cannot. I'm looking at
Hazaret Godspeaker right now. Start Your Engines. The reminder text is, if you have no speed, it starts at 1. It increases once on each of your turns when an opponent loses life. Max speed is 4. Start Your Engines. I have questions about how it actually mechanically functions. Is this an ETB ability? It doesn't really say. It just says Start Your Engines. If you cast a card with Start Your Engines and then you have no speed, so it starts at 1. Obviously, this is kind of like an emblem, or like the being tempted by the ring. It's something you can't really interact with. And it's something that other cards are going to be referencing. When, say, you have a speed of 2 and you cast a card with Start Your Engines, do you gain another speed? The reminder text isn't very clear on that. I believe that is how that works. But it only references increasing your speed on each of your turns when an opponent loses life. So I think it is very clunky. Mm-hmm. And from the cards that I've been looking at, I haven't had a chance to look too deeply into any of this. The Start Your Engine cards seem to do good about increasing your speed, but I haven't seen too many cards that give you a payoff for that speed. Outside of max, some cards that have max speed. But other than that, nothing's really referencing it. So frankly, it doesn't seem like it means much of anything until you have 4 speed overall. I'm also intrigued to see where they came up with 4 as being the max, and I'm curious what like the design space and idea for that. Though we do have a cycle of lands called the Raceway lands. Muruganda Raceway, Amonkhet Raceway, and a Vishkar. I almost called it the old one. A Vishkar Raceway, which are just colorless lands that have start your engines, so you can land drop it to get speed before you play anything on turn one, effectively. And then when you have max speed, they all tap for 2 lands. I feel like these cards in general are going to be pretty good to go in a lot of decks. I mean, it's basically a colorless land that enters untapped, or it's an Ancient Tomb without paying 2 life. I feel like a colorless land that later becomes a free Ancient Tomb is going to be pretty fucking good.
Well, I would say it's more, at least the Muraganda one is the one you're referencing, where it taps for 2 when you have max speed. The Amonkhet one gives target creature haste, and the Avishkar one allows you to pay 3, discard a card, draw a card. It feels a little more akin to a Temple of the False Gods, right? Because Temple of the False Gods is a weird land that it's like, okay, it taps for 2, but you can't really use it before turn 5 in a lot of decks, maybe 3 in some decks that can land ramp really well. I think I'm on board with the. It feels a very clunky mechanic. It's kind of now, this additional emblem that just kind of sits there, and if you forget to tick it up, if it's part of your deck, obviously you're going to remember, and you're like, oh, okay, I need max speed. It's going to be like limited. You're going to be like, I can focus in real hard on max speed. And everything else, like if you drop one of these in Commander, it might be one of those things that ends up turning out to be like day-night, where it's like, okay, I forgot to track max speed, and now this one, I forgot I had this other random card that says max speed. Do you guys mind? Do you think I don't know.
What speed
I'm
do you think I'm
interested to see
at?
how it works.
Should I add
I agree.
one?
I think
Yeah.
But
now, the comparison to Temple of the False Gods is a good one, specifically for Muraganda Raceway. I still think this is better, though, because it's not a dead card if you need to land drop it on your first turn.
That's true.
Temple of the False Gods is not on until you have, I think it's 5 lands. And it just does nothing otherwise. You can't tap it at all. Whereas this, you can at least tap for a colorless. In a speed deck, obviously, it's going to be a free way to increase your speed or start your speed. Obviously we'll get more into all of this during the full review of the set with Typical Gemini. I feel very weird about all of it, frankly. Everything is just like, I'm seeing mechanics and engines. I'm also seeing the mimeoplasm and dinosaurs, and I'm seeing like it's giving me a little bit of the ick, It's just I can't quite put my finger on why, but it just makes me uncomfortable.
I think it's going to get the same reaction. I haven't been hearing too much yet, but I imagine it's going to have the same reaction a lot of people had to Thunder Junction, where it was this hodgepodge smashed together idea of bringing in all your favorite villains. This one, personally, I like it. I like to see. I think that it has some really cool cards in it. I think the art is really cool on a lot of them, and I think if this was just presented to us in some other non-Magic the Gathering context, where it's like, all right, we got this multi-dimensional race, and we're going to be racing through ancient Egypt, we're going to be racing through super technology land, and we're going to be racing past dinosaurs. That would be cool. Just outside of the context of MTG, that'd be cool. However, again, because we have this, the umbrella of Magic, it does kind of feel, it gives off this vibe of, stapled, stitched together. And I haven't read the lore on it. I haven't read the story for it, so maybe that's part of it. Maybe if I read the story, I'd be more into it, or everybody'd be more into it. I don't know.
Maybe
I should read the lore.
I tend not to read the lore personally. I like the mechanics, but then again, I'm probably the person that would benefit from reading the lore a little bit. Anyway, we will get into the full review of Aetherdrift once the full set is revealed and we have a chance to talk to our good friend Typical Gemini. You can catch that as a bonus action episode that will, of course, go out to patrons and free feeds as a little bonus episode. Moving on, we also have commander decks. There's only 2 commander decks for Aetherdrift. There's the Eternal Might and Living Energy. So yes, another energy deck, which I find particularly interesting. Saheeli, Radiant Creator, is the commander for Living Energy. She is 1 green, blue, red, 4/4 human artificer. Whenever you cast an artificer or an artifact spell, you get an energy. At the beginning of the combat on your turn, you may pay 3 energy. When you do, create a token that's a copy of a permanent you control, except it's a 5/5 artifact creature in addition to its other types and has haste. You sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. Teamer is an interesting color combination for energy, is an interesting combination for artifacts. It seems like something that could be very, very cool, or it's just going to be a mess. That said, a lot of the new commander cards for this deck seem to be fairly well valued. Territorial Aetherkite, $13. Rampaging Aetherhood, $17. Elder Gargaroth, oh my god, $12. Ooh, we have a new Nissa as well, a Landfall Nissa as a creature. She's been desparked. That whenever you play a land, you get 2 energy. Probably going to be pretty good in energy decks, but do you have any preliminary thoughts on the Living Energy deck?
I think that I don't mind that there's more energy out there. I know that it's a very popular mechanic, and I am actually very happy to see it with green instead of white in this iteration. Which in the past year we've gotten multiple energy decks, both in Jeskai. So at least it's in Teamer this time.
I agree. I do also want to point out the mana base seems to be slightly better. We have Treasure Vault in the mana base to be creating treasures. Nice dual lands with Rootbound Crag and Carplusion Forest, as well as a Academy Ruins for $16, which is pretty freaking sweet. The other deck we have is more your classic zombies route. It is Eternal Might, helmed by Temet Noctamoon's Will. Is 2 white, blue, black for a 4/4 legendary creature zombie wizard. It has Vigilance and Menace, and whenever you attack, you draw a card, then discard a card. And then whenever you draw a card, zombies you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. Very simple mechanic. Very simple card, much easier to play, I would imagine. Much like the other one, currently the value of some of the Aetherdrift's commander-specific cards is rather high. You are going to be getting a reprint of the Scarab God, which is pretty cool. The mana base, a little bit less impressive than the energy deck. You do get the Drowned Catacomb. Isolated Chapel is a nice little dual lands. Underground River is one of the bigger ones, and Unholy Grotto, $10. People tend to care more about the backup commander for this deck, though, which is, where are you? It is, there we go. Hashatan Scarab's First. It is white-black for a 1/3 legendary creature zombie wizard. Whenever you discard a creature card, you may pay 2 and a blue. If you do, create a tap token that's a copy of that card, except it's a 4/4 black zombie. A 2-mana commander that you can then curve into for 3 mana to get a free creature or a very highly reduced creature that's being discarded to an effect. Seems very, very powerful. What do you think of the Eternal Might? Do you like the return of zombies? Do you like how they're handling zombies in this color combination?
I will start by saying Hashatan Scarab's Fist is definitely super cool, and as soon as I saw that, I'm like, I want to build that. Yeah, zombies actually getting into 3 colors here, I think is very cool. A lot of the times we see zombies just in mono black, or we see them in black blue. So to add a 3rd color here, really round out maybe what zombies are sometimes missing. I mean, already a perfectly powerful creature type, and a lot of the builds around it are very good. But I do like seeing this in 3 colors, and getting to see how this plays. I might pick this one up, actually.
It seems like that would not be a bad idea. We've gone from 4 commander decks for each of these sets to now 2 with Aetherdrift. And we've gotten a little bit of insight. They've been responding to criticism that the decks have been too plentiful and lower in quality in terms of the deck contents. It seems that at least in the pre-release environment, the value included in these decks is much higher than previous commander decks, with some very, very interesting new cards that have a very high value right now that'll probably drop in value, but they are also bolstered by some good reprint value as well. Overall, I feel I'm pretty excited for these commander decks. I think this is a much better commander product than what we've been getting with some of the sets from last year. It's sad that they had to pick 2 planes. And they picked Avishkar and Amonkhet, and so Muruganda does not have a representative commander deck. We also don't have a representative commander deck for some of the weird Aetherdrift mechanics. So we're not getting like a speed-related one. We're not getting a vehicle or crew-related one. And only having 2 decks, you're not going to be able to get a pot of 4 to pick up a deck each and then play them together in a nice little themed game. But in isolation, I feel like these decks are interesting and hold a lot of value. What do you have to say? Final thoughts.
Like I said, I think the Eternal Might is very cool. I do agree. I agree. At the same time, I'm also conflicted with the idea that we're not getting a speed or a very specific exhaust related or a vehicle and crew related sort of commander deck. Because I will say, you see a lot of those in previous products that just kind of fall by the wayside. The commander decks that have longevity end up being very well priced even after they are, even after the next several products come out. Like, I just look back at the Bloomborough ones, and the Squirrel Tokens one, that one is like $125 to $170 online.
Oh, yeah.
And that's because it's just so good. But the Offspring's a cool mechanic from that set. However, that one's probably the cheapest one. And I think we would probably see the same thing here, is if we got a vehicles where we got a speed-related one, they would just fall by the wayside as these 2 decks that really would take the spotlight.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right on that. I completely agree. I feel like commander decks are a good way to kind of immortalize these more limited environment mechanics. But then again, at the same time, there's just no staying power for that kind of stuff. Before we move out of the realm of Magic, I do want to point out one card from the Eternal Might deck. It is Zombie Master. And I want to point it out simply because the art is fucking awesome. You know exactly who this kind of character is. You know exactly what, the vibe is just so good. For those of you that are listening to the audio podcast, Zombie Master is just a zombie creature. It's got some neat abilities, giving other zombies swamp walk and pay a black to regenerate. But the art is a swamp, and there's a bunch of zombie arms sticking out of the swamp, and then a necromancer looking dude walking from hand to hand to cross the swamp without wading through the water. And it looks awesome. Props to what is that? Johan. Where is it? Johan Shepis? Oh, the detail on it is so low, I can't tell. Regardless, it looks...
Johan Shapaz.
There we go. Looks gorgeous. Very good. Yes. Very, very good. Well, before we move out of the realm of magic, we do have a question from the Patreon, patreon.com/dungeonbros. You can ask questions. We put up a little podcast questions thread every single week. You can ask us, get it read on the show. Brandon wants to know, what sets are we more excited about? Any chase cards? And did we see the Chrome Mox for Aetherdrift? Yes, I saw the Chrome Mox for Aetherdrift. It looks cool. The serialized one's going to be very pricey. The finish line frame is still ugly, though. So... what sets are you most excited about for this year? We got a new year. The sets are, I mean, obviously we don't know what the back end half of the year is going to be yet, but
yeah, it's true. I wasn't excited for Aetherdrift. I think now that I'm seeing it, I am excited for Aetherdrift. Maybe not the most. I think when it comes down to it, for me, Edge of Eternities is still the most exciting set of the year. As far as chase cards in Aetherdrift, man. Whatever's expensive sounds good. I don't necessarily think there's any particular chase cards that I need. I'm always just excited to open up a couple of packs, and if I get something good, it's pretty good. It's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's kind of how I do with packs. I'm obviously the fucking Final Fantasy nerd, so I'm excited about the Final Fantasy Universes Beyond. I think Tarkir Dragonstorm is going to be more of my vibe for a Magic set. And then chase cards, I mean, obviously, I love the Ether Spark. I'd love Loot. I think Loot's cool. I would like to... Because they put commander cards sometimes in packs, right? Or is that just collector boosters?
No, they sometimes put them in regular. Yeah, I've like pulled a couple of random... Like,
Mm-hmm.
I've face commanders and stuff.
Yeah, I'd love the backup commander for the zombie deck. It's a really cool card. It's a really, really cool card. All right, we'll move on into the realm of Dungeons and Dragons, because mere hours before we hit record on this podcast, we have a new playtest, Unearthed Arcana Forgotten Realms subclasses. It includes 8 subclasses, and 3 of them are revised from 5th edition. The revised ones are the Knowledge Domain Cleric, the Purple Dragon Knight Fighter, and the Blade Singer Wizard. And then we get 5 new ones, which are the College of the Moon Bard, the Oath of the Noble Genies Paladin, the Winter Walker Ranger, the Scion of the Three Rogue, and the Spellfire Sorcery Sorcerer. We're not going to go into depth and be reading through all of the abilities on this, because we don't want to be here for 3 hours, which is what, honestly, these would demand out of us. So we're just going to hit highlights here. So of the 3 that are being revised from 2014 5th edition, Knowledge Domain Cleric has gone through a couple of changes. You get Artisan's Tools proficiency. The Knowledge Domain spells have been updated to include more damaging and combat-relevant options, and you get access to more spells. Mind Magic is a new feature. It allows you to expend a use of Channeled Divinity to cast one of your domain spells without expending a spell slot. Unfettered Mind is the new feature that grants you telepathy and consistent intelligence checks. And then Divine Foreknowledge is a new feature that allows you to gain advantage on D20 tests for up to 1 hour. It just kind of seems to me just like a generically pretty good cleric-y cleric in a lot of ways.
Love a cleric-y cleric.
Very. One of the most cleric-y of clerics.
Indeed.
The Purple Dragon Knight Fighter, I think, is much more interesting. We have Knightly Envoy, is formerly Royal Envoy, has been moved to level 3. It lets you learn an additional language and cast the Comprehend Languages spell as a ritual. But the more important thing, at level 3, you get the Purple Dragon Companion, a new feature that gives you a small dragon companion. It's a small dragon. Its AC involves 13 plus your intelligence. It's similar to summoning spells. It has a gravity breath weapon that requires a Constitution saving throw. It's a 15-foot cone, and it moves its targets straight towards the dragon or 15 feet away from the dragon. So you can pull things in, or you can blow things away from you. And then it also has a just kind of standard 1d6 plus whatever force damage just kind of basic melee attack. You can then mount and ride to the dragon, improving its gravity breath and adding damage to the gravity breath. And then you get some rallying abilities for your companion to take. And yeah, I think this one's the coolest fucking one by far.
Yeah, I remember back in the 2014 edition, the Purple Dragon Knight was nothing. It was very setting specific class that wasn't useful if you're not playing in that specific campaign setting.
And even in that campaign setting, it wasn't that
even
useful.
in that campaign setting. However, yeah, this, I mean, as soon as you give somebody a dragon companion, you win. You win.
Stepping on the toes of the ranger a little bit, but it's a dragon, and you get to ride it, so
much cooler.
I'm not going to be upset with that at all. The last of the revised subclasses is we get the Bladesinger Wizard, which is my personal favorite wizard subclass. This is the one that has been changed the least of the three, but is the one that I feel like got the biggest buff for the most minor changes that it had. Blade Song you get at level 3. It functions very similarly to how it was previous. You get a number of uses tied to your intelligence modifier. But more importantly, you get to attack with it using your intelligence modifier for attack and damage. Because as you all know, if you're using a sword, if you are smarter, you hit better and harder with it. As we all know in our day-to-day lives. We've learned this. We were taught this growing up, learned it in elementary school gym class. This is the way of the sword in a lot of ways. The training in War and Song gives you an additional skill proficiency. You also expanded weapon proficiencies have been replaced with armor training, and you can use your weapon as your spellcasting focus. And then the last one, Song of Victory, it allows you to make a weapon attack as a bonus action after you cast a spell. While in your Blade Song, you have an AC bonus equal to your intelligence modifier. You have, let's see, you can replace with intelligence, and you can add your intelligence to concentration checks you make while it is active. All at level 3, mind you. AC buff, intelligence for attack and damage, and a buff to your concentration checks. Bladesinger Wizard's pretty good.
I will say Bladesinger Wizard is not only your favorite, but just so many people's favorite. And some of our other friends who are a little more, I don't want to say min-maxy, but min-maxy, have often complained about some of these things that have been updated here. And I think this will be some welcome changes. Yeah,
it puts it way more in line with the Warlock, the Pact of the Blade Warlock, in a lot of ways. So where they were able to use charisma for attack and damage, and it just kind of brings everything in line across multiple classes. The more interesting things are the 5 new subclasses we are getting. We'll go back up to the top of this document. The College of the Moon Bard, basically just focusing on druidic circles of the Moonshae Isles in the Forgotten Realm. They draw from the Isles' fey magic and primal power of the Moonwells to bolster their allies. They're telling tales of the Moonshae. They have the Tale of Life, which when you restore hit points to a creature with the spell, you can use Bardic Inspiration to increase the amount that you heal. The Tale of Gloam, you can use a bonus action to give a creature a Bardic Inspiration dice, and then you can take the Disengage or Hide action in addition to that. The Tale of Mirth, when you see an enemy within 60 feet of yourself, it succeeds on a save, you can use a reaction to use a Bardic Inspiration, and then you subtract the roll from the Bardic Inspiration from the saves total. It seems that's like the core thing you're going to be getting out of this. You're going to get additional spell proficiencies. You get Moonbeam, and you get some buffs to the Moonbeam spell as well. And then when you're using Tale of Life or Tale of Mirth at higher levels, you're going to be able to increase the bonuses. And I don't know. I think this just kind of seems like generically good bard, just in the same kind of way that the Knowledge Domain cleric is just kind of a generically good cleric. I like the thematic use of the Moonbeam spell and then tacking on some additional benefits to it because you're using it in that subclass. And I'm always going to love more options for Bardic Inspiration, personally.
People love a moon version of a class. Moon cleric or moon druid is obviously one of the biggest druids out there. This is a little different, but hey, you know what? Let's go with it. Bards, sing me moon tales.
I'm just thinking of you're not familiar with Rick and Morty, are you?
No.
No, there's an episode where Morty gets like really, really high on alien drugs, and then he's like going on a trip, and they're singing a song about moon men, and it just makes me think of that. Anyway, we have the next subclass, the Oath of the Noble Genies Paladin. Of course, this is one drawing from the 4 different types of genies. On Faerun, many paladins who swear this oath hail from Calamsham, which is a very popular area of the Forgotten Realms. And it does seem that you're able to use all of the abilities from genies and not having to just pick one like some of our other genie subclasses have been, which I think is pretty cool. At level 3, you get the Elemental Smite. Immediately after you cast your Divine Smite, you can expend a use of Channel Divinity to invoke one of the following effects. You can just make it take extra fire damage. You can make the target have the grappled condition. No save required. They just become grappled. You can teleport within 30 feet. And then the target and each creature of your choice within 10 feet must make a strength saving throw or be knocked prone. You also get some additional genie-themed spells: Chromatic Orb, Thunderous Smite, Mirror Image, Gaseous Form, Brandishing Smite, all of that. You also get a bonus to your AC equal to your Charisma modifier when you are not wearing medium or heavy armor. And then you also gain proficiency in your choice of Acrobatics, Intimidation, Performance, or Persuasion, encouraging a paladin to doff the heavy armor, put on something a bit lighter, be a bit more agile, maybe more of a dexterity build. You get an aura that allows you to gain resistance to one type of damage amongst acid, cold, fire, lightning, or thunder. You get to choose it when you activate the aura. And then at the start of each of your turns, you can change the damage type. No action required. Elemental Rebuke, it gives you a nice reaction ability that you can use. And then the Noble Scion is just a level 12 super powerful thing. This feels like a very toolboxy paladin with some interesting build-arounds in terms of the armor requirements. And I feel like this is one that is low-key going to be cracked wide open just because of Dow's Crush, which is the automatic grapple condition.
Yeah, they've been trying very hard to make no right option when it comes to choosing how to build your character. And I think that is really good when they give you so many options within a subclass or within the class. And this seems right along with it. I enjoy this a lot.
I agree. My second favorite subclass of all of the ones shown here outside of the revised Blade Singer, and this is entirely because I'm a Ranger stan, the Winter Walker, very inspired by places such as Icewind Dale. I personally feel like it is very inspired both in the name and some of the abilities here from the White Walkers of Game of Thrones. Level 3, you get 3 abilities. Frigid Explorer, you gain resistance to cold damage. You can also deal an additional 1d4 cold damage to a target once per turn. Whenever you hit a creature with a weapon. The creature can only take it once per turn. If you're hitting multiple creatures, they can each take the additional damage, but only once per turn. It ignores resistance to cold damage, and then it increases again at level 11 to a D6 instead of a D4. It also buffs your Hunter's Mark with Hunter's Rhyme. You gain temporary hit points equal to 1d10 plus your Ranger level. Additionally, while the creature is marked by your Hunter's Mark, it cannot take the disengage action, meaning it cannot freely move away from you, and you are gaining temporary hit points to bolster yourself. You also get access to some ice and cold-themed spells. Ice Knife, Pass Without Trace, Remove Curse, Ice Storm, and Cone of Cold. Level 7, you get Fortifying Soul. When you finish a short rest, you can choose a number of creatures you can see equal to your Wisdom modifier. The chosen creature regains hit points equal to 1d10 plus your Ranger level and has advantage on saving throws to avoid or end the frightened condition for up to 1 hour. When you use this feature, it can't be used again until you finish a long rest. Chilling Retribution. When a creature hits you with an attack roll, you can use your reaction to force them to make a Wisdom save on a fail. They have the frightened condition, and while frightened, their speed is 0. You can use the reaction a number of times equal to your Wisdom modifier. And then at level 15, you get Frozen Haunt, is another buff to Hunter's Mark. You adopt a ghostly, snowy form. It lasts until the spell ends, and while you're in this form, you gain several benefits. Once you use this feature, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest, unless you expend a level 4+ spell slot. So you can use it multiple times, but it's going to cost more. You have immunity to cold damage, and when you first adopt this form, and at the start of each of your subsequent turns, each creature of your choice in a 15-foot emanation originating from you takes 2d4 cold damage. And then partially incorporeal, you have immunity to the grapple prone and restrained conditions. You can move through creatures and objects as if they were difficult terrain. You take a d10 of force damage if you end your turn inside of a dude. It is a ranger that is encouraging you to be much more in melee combat than most other rangers. They tend to focus on, of course, the range aspect. This is wanting you to get right up in people's faces. I like the buffs to Hunter's Mark. I like that you get additional ones as you get higher level. Just extra cold damage and everything is nice. You get to bolster your friends, helping them restore hit points, but giving them advantage on saves against the frightened condition is super powerful. I think it's really cool. Samuel?
Oh, okay. Sorry, connection must have dropped there. Anyway,
well,
while you stand
the
Rangers,
internet.
I stand ice stuff, so. While you stand Rangers, I stand ice stuff, so. I'm here for this. This looks like a lot of fun to play, and, honestly, like, we've often been disappointed in Ranger subclasses in the past. I don't feel disappointed by this one. I think this one has some very good stuff, and with the the 2024 Ranger in general, it's not bad.
I agree. And frankly, looking at this is true. I think of most all of the subclasses that we're looking at. They don't really, unlike the Unearthed Arcanas we were getting when they were play testing for the player's handbook. I feel like a lot of these are just kind of like good as is, frankly. Mm-hmm. And if this Ranger came out exactly like this, I think that would be a great spot. It's not too powerful, but it has a niche. It fulfills that niche very well, and it's super thematic for what they're wanting to do. Second to last. We have the Scion of Three Rogue. Draws power from a group of malevolent gods known as the Dead Three. Bane, Baal, and Miracle. Very popular in Baldur's Gate. And familiar to those who have played Baldur's Gate 3, I am so told. I am not one of them. You get Bloodthirst at level 3. Your sneak attack, if your sneak attack hits a bloodied creature, it takes extra damage of the weapon's type equal to half your rogue level. In addition, when an enemy you can see is reduced to 0, you can take a reaction to teleport to an unoccupied space you can see within 30 feet of yourself. You can make 1 melee attack. You can use this reaction a number of times equal to your intelligence modifier. 3. Also at level 3, you get Dread Alliance. You get a cantrip and a damage resistance depending on which of the 3 gods you choose. Bane gives you psychic resistance and minor illusion. Baal gives you poison resistance and blade ward. Miracle gives you necrotic resistance and chill touch. Strike Fear. You gain the following Cunning Strike option. Terrify costs 1d6. Target must succeed a Wisdom saving throw or it has the frightened condition for 1 minute. The frightened target repeats the save at the end of its turns. Level 13. Or, sorry, no. Yeah, no, 13. Aura of Malevolence. I saw Aura and I was like, I was on the Paladin page again. At the start of each of your turns, each creature of your choice within 10 feet emanating from you takes damage equal to your intelligence modifier. The damage is of the same type as you resist, granted by the Dread Allegiance feature. Damage dealt by this aura ignores resistance and is inactive when you have the incapacitated condition. And then at 17, you get Dread Incarnate. You gain the following benefits. You have advantage on attack rolls against any creature with the frightened condition. And when you roll a sneak attack damage, you can treat a roll of 1 or 2 on the dice as a 3. Increasing the floor on your sneak attack is pretty good. I like that they're building around the frightened condition, trying to inflict it and then benefit additionally from it on top of the normal benefits you would get from frightening your enemies. Pretty thematic. You're the Baldur's Gate guy between the two of us, so what do you think?
Calling me the Baldur's Gate guy is an overstatement. I have played a little bit of it. But anyway, you know what? As far as it goes with rogues, you don't want to tell anybody how to play their character, especially thematically. But man, if they're just saying you should be a edgy asshole here, they've got it down pat. I do think these abilities are super cool, and that's what I'll say. They are super cool.
They're super cool. Edgelord behavior, frankly. I like an edgelord behavior. The last subclass we'll look at is the Spellfire Sorcerer. You're it's how do I put this without sounding insulting? Here, I'm just going to read it. Your innate power stems from the source of magic itself, the weave. You're magical because of magic. It's basically it. But it just kind of, you're a weave manipulator, which some might say is a wizard. But you get sorcerer abilities. At level 3, Spellfire Burst. When you spend at least 1 sorcery point as part of the magic action or a bonus action on your turn, you can unleash one of the following effects. You can do so only once per turn. Bolstering Flames. You or a creature you see within 30 feet of you gains temporary hit points equal to 1d4 plus your charisma. Or Radiant Fire. One creature you can see within 30 feet must succeed a dexterity saving throw or take 1d6 fire or radiant damage, your choice. Also at level 3, you gain additional spells. An additional spell list that you always have prepared. Cure Wounds, Guiding Bolt, Lesser Restoration, Scorching Ray, Aura, Vitality, Dispel Magic, Fire Shield, Wall of Fire, Greater Restoration, and Flame Strike. I didn't know that the weave was built around fire specifically. Yeah, but
who knew?
Who could have possibly known? Level 6, we get juicy, though. Absorb spells. You always have Counterspell prepared. Additionally, whenever a target fails the saving throw against Counterspell, you regain 1d4 sorcery points. I feel like that ability, before we move on, I feel like that ability itself makes it one of the best counterspellers in D&D at level 6.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Level 14, Honed Spellfire. Your Spellfire Burst improves. You add your sorcery level to the temporary hit points from Bolstering Flame, and the 1d6 of Radiant Fire becomes 3d6. And then at 18, Crown of Spellfire. As a bonus action, you gain the following benefits for a minute. Burning Life Force. Once per turn, when you are hit by an attack roll, you can expend a number of hit dice. Using hit dice for abilities. Let's go. Once per turn, when you are hit by an attack roll, you can expend a number of hit dice up to a maximum equal to your charisma modifier. You roll the expended dice, reduce the amount of damage from that attack equal to the total rolled plus your sorcerer level. Chef's kiss. Flight, you gain a flight speed of 60. Spell Avoidance. When you are subjected to a spell or magical effect that allows you to make a saving throw to take half damage, you instead take no damage if you succeed. I believe there's another... Wasn't there another ability that had that exact phrasing? I guess we'll never know. Anyway, it would make sense that the weave-based sorcerer would be the best at counterspelling. I think that's pretty cool. Other than that, it just seems like here's another fire sorcerer, but a little bit different.
You know what this reminds me of? At least flavorfully, it kind of feels like the AO3, the Wattpad fanfic self-insert character. Oh, I'm the Y/N. Is your magic comes from the weave, and you're just the best sorcerer around.
Oh, yeah, just like those shitty like 4chan. Oh, like the shitty Tumblr like fanfics and stuff.
Yes.
That are just self-inserts. No, absolutely, yes. I totally get that. I totally get that vibe. I like the additional benefit for just using your sorcery points. I like the buff to counterspell. I think that's pretty fun. I like that at level 18 you can use your hit dice for something. I think the flavoring is a little bit bland. I think the counterspell buff is like the most flavorful thing. Everything else just kind of feels fire for the sake of fire, which I mean, I guess it is a spell fire sorcerer, but you know.
Well, yeah.
I think it's neat. It's probably my least favorite thematically, but it's certainly powerful.
Sure, absolutely.
So, go over to the. Oh my God! Why am I drawing a blank? I'm so D&D Beyond. Jesus Christ! Go to D&D Beyond. You can download the Unearthed Arcana for the playtest for these subclasses, and then you can submit your feedback. Starting on February 4th, which is 1 week from the recording of this today. If you are listening to this the day it publishes to free feeds, it is tomorrow. So very exciting. What do you think of the subclasses? Final thoughts.
You know what? I always love a new subclass, and I'm excited to see that they're utilizing Unearthed Arcana a lot now. Back in the day, I just was unaware, but now to see them ahead of time, to get the feel for them, and to kind of get excited about what's to come. I'm not playing a lot of D&D here recently, and I probably won't be for a while. But who knows? Maybe that Game of Thrones White Walker Ranger will be mine someday.
Maybe you might have like a little dragon buddy that you can ride around on. I think that'd be pretty cool.
That'd be cool.
I am also not playing much D&D at all, and by much I mean any D&D, which is a shame because I that's what got us all started into this whole content thing, this whole podcasting thing was D&D. I think Magic is just more easily digestible, and it's easier to just pick up and play a game of Magic than schedule and plan for D&D sessions with some level of regularity.
That's true.
Oh, the joys of adulthood. Anyway, those are the yeah, right. Those are the big stories that we have to cover these last 2 weeks. We have one wrap-up item. It is Magic Secret Lair related. It is a new festival in a box starting February 3rd at 9 a.m. Pacific time. That is the day this podcast goes live. And I believe when this publishes is when it will open, because I think that's how time zones work. Yes, when this publishes at noon on Monday for free feeds is when this goes live. It's very similar to the previous festival in a box we got for MagicCon Las Vegas. This is for MagicCon Chicago. You get a booster box of Mystery Boosters 2. You also get some Secret Lair art of Hydra's Elementals and the Phyrexian Invasion, courtesy of Jack Teagle. Animar, Soul of the Elements, All Will Be One, Benevolent Hydra, Forgotten Ancient, and it won't let me scroll over to the side because I have it on my vertical monitor, and Moldrifter. So a couple that are not super valuable, but several that are rather valuable. And then you also get some new promos in this as well. You get a Future Sight Frame Ponder. You get a Playtest Second City playtest card. Is a land. And then Sarah Benevolent, a legendary planeswalker in the retro frame, which I think the retro frame planeswalkers look super sick. I love them. And then a future sight, the first sliver as well. So an interesting mix of cards that are both valuable and not valuable. You're getting Mr. Boosters 2 as a box, but you're not getting any additional packs along with it. The value of the secret layers is higher. The promos is a little bit better, but you're getting less stuff in general. I don't know. I feel like that all just kind of makes it a wash compared to the last one, and it's kind of the same value, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, honestly the layer drop, the Animals and Friends art is super cool, and I think I like it a lot better than some of the previous includes.
Mm-hmm.
And in the end, if you're getting it just for the Mystery Booster 2, that might be worth it. However, unfortunately, I will not be. That's very sad for me.
No. $200 is a lot for Mr. Boosters 2. I think the value, if you get some decent pulls, is definitely there. A lot of those future sight frame cards are very expensive right now. The white border cards, very expensive. You could get lucky and crack some physically printed arena cards. Some of the playtest cards are really good, but, Yeah, I probably also will not be doing it because I am house poor at the moment, So I got house, but I'm eating peanut butter and jelly.
Delicious.
When we were still living together, there was one day you made a comment of, it's crazy how when you get older, because I can't remember the specifics, but you start to eat similar things that you were as a human as you had a plate of chicken nuggets and which, by the way, I've been eating a lot of chicken nuggets recently and they're divine, I might add.
There you go.
A little bit over an hour. I think we kind of sped through that a little bit. I feel like we don't have as much to say about D&D stuff anymore because we're not in the thick of it as much anymore. We'll get more into detail with Aetherdrift as well for our set review / spoiler cast thing with Wyatt, which will be very fun when we get the full set reveal for Aetherdrift. Sam, do you have any plans to get Innistrad remastered packs and start cracking them, or are you just going to get one for our 2025 limited pool?
So I was gifted one.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody, one of my roommates went out and bought one, and so we opened them the other night. I got Ren and Seven.
Oh, very nice.
I got an alt art foil Young Wolf, and that was about it.
The Young Wolf is a rather good card.
It's a good card. It went into a little cube I made, but I'll of course pick one up for the 2025 Chaos Limited event we like to do. But other than that, I can't get anybody to draft with me.
Yeah, I'm frustrated because the last remastered sets we split a box. We went halvesies on a box, and it was fun to open, and it wasn't super expensive. Whereas right now it's do I want to drop close to $200 for a booster box or just buy packs for $7 a pop, and that just also doesn't feel good either.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued to see what I end up getting for Aetherdrift, if I end up going the route we've been going, which is the pre-release kits, or if I drop some money on a bundle, possibly. I don't know.
I will say for me personally, at our local game store, it is much more cost-effective to get a bundle. Our local game store jacks up the prices on pre-release kits.
Oh, really?
I don't know if that's... last time, so for the Duskmorn, I believe a bundle ended up being only about $10 more than a pre-release kit when I went to buy one.
No shit, really? Well, yeah. the one down here, I mean, we're still getting $40 for a pre-release kit, which isn't super great. But they throw in 2 packs on top of it as a little your prize packs if you're not staying to play in the store. So I don't know. We'll see what we end up doing, but we're definitely going to be having some packs and cards to be playing with in the near future.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, Sam, unless you have anything else you want to say, I think that's about all the time we got.
I will tell the audience this. I'll tell the audience this. Chase cards are never worth opening packs, and chasing cards while you're playing with Start Your Engine might also not be effective because it seems like a weird mechanic.
It seems like a very weird mechanic indeed. Indeed. Don't go tracing that Chrome Mox, okay? As tempting as the Finish Line bundle is, and tempting it most certainly is, don't do it. Don't do it. Anyway, with all that being said, we love you very much, and as always,